Hi guys, and welcome back to askNK. In today's video, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create an amazing character directly in Adobe Fuse. I'll go ahead and explain what Adobe Fuse is, how it has been, how long it has showed up, and then we're going to export this directly to Mixamo, the Adobe Cloud, rig this, animate it, and bring it down to Marmoset, where we're going to do the shading, lighting, and finally rendering. And if you're ready to learn something new today, grab a coffee, a popcorn, whatever you can lay your hands on, and let's begin. Fuse, presently called Adobe Fuse, was a program that was created by a web-based rigging and animation service company known as Mixamo, and this was one of the best things within the time that was created because everyone could easily generate and use characters for their animation, pose for poster designs, and also as base meshes for their sculpting. And as soon as this company was bought over by Adobe, and just like most other Adobe apps that have been bought, it was featured on the Creative Cloud service as beta. And at a point in 2015, they teased an integration with Photoshop, which was Fuse being used in Photoshop, and everyone was excited. I was actually excited about it. I was thinking maybe sooner than later this was going to make its way to After Effects and make some work way more easier. And just like every other app that has just like most apps, not every app, but just like most apps that have been bought by Adobe, this was just there in the library as beta for a while, and essentially it is more like a forgotten tool in the Adobe library. And the Mixamo service still works though, and you can still get your models, still go over to the Mixamo site for free. You can rig your characters for free. You can also attach and download FBX motion capture files directly there. So first and foremost, once you open up this app, what you're going to notice is it has a very simplified UI and everything is just at the right place. So if you click on the file, within this file you can import multiple stuff, substance files, characters, and also clothing. So hopefully now that they've acquired Algorithmic, they should be able to work on this. That is if they have not totally killed this project. And once you want to export, you can export as OBJ. Now you might be asking, how can you export as FBX so you can have all of those materials and all that? And I'm going to explain to you guys how you can do that. So we're going to start off by actually going ahead to create a character. So I'm going to click here, just click on the head, and automatically it's going to generate a head, a quick head for us here. And with this head here, what we can do is we can look at the wireframe and you can see how clean this is, or you can look at the shaded version with the wireframe overlaid and you can see how clean this is. Now the cool thing with this app is that at any point in time you can select any part of the character and you can tweak this to fit into the base or into what you're trying to create. All right, so you can select any part and tweak this thing. And because it makes use of some kind of fusing technology, it simply means, like the name goes, fuse. So it simply means that you can select any body part or any body type and it's going to go ahead and fuse that body type with any section of the body that you've selected. So like right now I have the head and I'm selecting this part and you can see we have that part like that. And if you want to make changes to that, I can go back to the torso and select a different part of the character. Right, so I can select a different torso that would blend in with the character. The same thing is what I'm going to do. I'm also going to go ahead and select the feet or legs, and you can still go back at any point in time to change this depending on what you want to get. So let's just quickly go ahead and add some arms to this character. So I'll go over to the arm and add an extra arm for this character. Now if you add the arm and for some reason you think maybe some things are not proper, some things are not proportional, you can go ahead and scale this to fit into what you want. At this point your character is ready to go, especially if you want to use this for things like simulations and all that. You can go ahead and just pick up this character from here, export it as OBJ, and use it for whatever thing you want. If you're into sculpting, then this might be the best time for you to just pick this character from here and use it for anything you want. But if you want to use this for an animation and you don't want to go ahead and start making clothes and making props, then of course you can jump into the part that has to do with clothing, and from this clothing section you can add clothes to this character. If you're not comfortable with how the looks of this character is, let's say the skin tone and all of that stuff, you can go over to the customize. That means if you don't want to use these sections to play with this, if you don't want to tighten certain parts and maybe extrude certain parts, you can use this section to make all these changes for what you want. Next thing which we're going to do is go over to clothing, and we'll go ahead and add some clothes to this character. I kind of like this clothes, so I'm just going to drop that there and see how it holds up. Looks good. You can scroll all the way down to find different forms of clothes that you can use for your character. So maybe you can put something like this. So now we have this open sweat shirt up. Next thing which I will do is go over to the bottom, and you can select any form or any kind of pants that you want. So I'm picking up this other pant, or maybe we should pick something like this. Maybe something like this would be fine. And I want you guys to see how the pant and every other thing just conforms to the character's body type. And if you go ahead and change the character's body type, you would still notice that automatically anything that you're selecting would also, go ahead and conform with it. So maybe we should just go ahead and pick something like this. And I would also like to give him a pair of shoes. So maybe we can give him a pair of very nice sneakers, something like that. And maybe for the hat, we can give him a very nice beanie. I think a nice beanie would be cool. Yeah, so I think this character is looking cool already. And maybe one more thing that we can do is we can choose to give a kind of beard variation to this character. At this point, this character is ready to go. But if you want to add some beards, let's say you're a fan of the beard gang stuff, then of course you can choose a certain form of beard and you can assign this to your character. At this point, you have everything that you want. You can ship these out to Maya and do your animation there, ship it out to Blender and do your animations directly there. Or maybe you can ship these directly to Mixamo and automatically rig it there. So how we can do this is we need to have an account with Mixamo. And right now, since Mixamo is being bought by Adobe, it simply means that you need to have an Adobe account for you to be able to do that. Now this account is free, so you don't need any form of subscription, and at any point in time you have this. All right, let's say you're not comfortable with the texture there, you can switch over, and if you have substance files load up here, you can use the substance files directly here to make changes. You can also make the changes around here. You can still come through and change the size. Right now we have this size set to 1K map, so there is just 1K map for basically everything. So I can set this all the way up to 1K and it's going to recalculate that for me. And let's look at the beanie and maybe set this up to 1K, and maybe the full character's map itself, let's see what it looks like. And yes, that is also set to 1K. So you can go all the way up depending on what you want. So everything that has to do with texturing gets to happen here. Everything that has to do with customization of the character gets to happen here. Clothing happens there and here. All right, so now we have our character ready. What we can do is we can choose to send this to the Mixamo cloud, which is now Adobe Cloud, and get it rigged directly there. Or another thing that we can do is we can export this as an OBJ with all the textures, all the UVs, and you can see that the geometry is extremely clean and very lightweight. And just in case you want to check out how much polygons you have here, you can do that by clicking over to, I guess, view, and you can see the polygon counts we have here. So we have barely 12,000 polygons that has made up this entire character. So you can see that this is extremely clean, and what we can do now is we can ship this out for animation. Now speaking about this, you can choose to export these as OBJ like I made mention earlier. So you can choose to export this as OBJ and make sure you have all these things packed. So what I'm going to do, instead of just simply hitting animate and sending it directly to the Adobe Cloud, what I can do is click over to File, export this as an OBJ, so I can share with you guys how you can also import your own OBJ into the Mixamo or into the Adobe Mixamo Cloud and be able to, you know, rig your characters directly there. So now we have this here. You can choose to say pack textures and UV, which will give you one huge UV tile, or you can just simply leave it this way and click on OK. So with this there, what you can do here is you need to be able to specify the name of the file, because this is essentially going to create a folder and pack everything into the folder. So I'm just going to type the name dude and put an underscore and hit save. So what's going to happen is I'm going to get a folder with all the textures, all the maps, everything inside, named dude. So let's get this to export. All right, so now we have this exported. The next thing which we need to do is to just fire up Mixamo. So I have Mixamo opened here, I've logged in, and how you can get your stuff working is if you hit the upload button, you can click over to this part and select your file. So we're going to simply select the file which we created that exists in the folder called dude. So pretty much you can see that inside this folder we have called dude. We have the materials, we have the model itself, and you can see all the normal maps that comes with this stuff. So I'm just going to click on the dude obj file and simply hit on open and allow this to upload. And once this is done, it's going to take us to the page where we will be able to automatically rig this character. Now the cool thing with this is it does not just rig your character and let it be. It rigs your character and also gives you room for you to be able to, you know, test out other animations with it. All right, so it gives you that room for you to be able to play with this and see how it holds up for you. So all we're doing right now is to just simply place the joints where the joints are supposed to be. So we need to place this at the elbow. Let's be able to find that. All right, so let's say that's the elbow, and let's guess here to be the knee, maybe a little bit lower. Here should be the chin, I think. And we can go ahead and put the groin somewhere like here, somewhere around there. Let's cross check this one more time. I guess here should be the shoulder, and I also think here should be the wrist. So once we have this done, you can choose depending on what you want to use this for. So maybe in case you want to use this for a game, and let's say you don't need fingers, you can do that. If you want to use just a 3-chain fingers, you can do that as well. But we're just going to go with a very standard one and click on next. At this point, we're going to allow the Autorig to calculate these things for us, weight this properly, and test it out. So if for some reason you have some weighting issues, you would be able to dictate these things here, go back and fix it properly before you export it for whatever reason you want. Or maybe if you cannot spot them here and doing animation or doing testing these models, you find these issues, you can also get this thing out of here, go to any of the DCC app you have and paint the weights exactly the way you want them to be. So with this done, the next thing which we're going to see is it's going to super load up the screen where we can test out the model. And I guess you can see that directly here we're having this. Now the reason why we cannot see the texture here is simply because we imported the OBJ file. Let's check out those fingers and see if the fingers are holding up. And yes, the fingers are looking great. So worthy to mention that they have various animation libraries you can, go ahead and find or maybe play with. So let's say you are looking for something that has to do with superhero and you select this. It's going to go ahead and list out a couple of superhero moves that you can use. So let's try something like this. Let me just go ahead and position this here. All right, so we can look at some models, look at some motions, and depending on what you want, you can go ahead and use this for your project. All right, so maybe we can pick the grab and slam. Nice, so we have this and it looks super cool. I guess this motion is from the Spider-Man, so we can see that Spider-Man hand thingy going on. So at this point, once you're done, you can choose to download this and use it for what you want. So I'm just going to hit the download button. And because I would want to download this as FBX, I'm just going to make it FBX. And you can choose to download just the motion, or you can just simply download this the way it is. So we're just going to simply set this to 30 frames and simply hit download. We'll give it just a moment for Mixamo to calculate this, and we'll be able to have this downloaded here. Alright, now that we're done with Mixamo, the next thing which we need to do is to take this file directly from here into Marmoset. That is where we're going to shade, light, and probably render this. So what we're going to do is, here I have Marmoset opened, and I'm going to just simply drag in this file right here. So this file is loaded directly into Marmoset, and we're going to shade and texture this from here. Now I know a lot of people will be complaining and saying that how do I work with things like this? It is low poly, you cannot work with this, you have to subdivide before you bring it in. I'm going to share with you guys how you can, you know, go ahead and tessellate this and make it much more easier for you to work with. So the first things which we're going to do is to create materials for almost every single thing. The skin and the eyes have exactly one material set. Like if we come through to the folder where we have, you can see that if I just punch this up, you can see we have the eyes here, we have this, we have the teeth. All of these things are inside one material. I'm just going to go ahead and close that. Now since we have this there, the other things are what we're just going to go ahead and work for. So for this I need to create a material for this, a material for this, a material for this one, this, and here. So for the beanie, the beard, the top, the pants, and also for the shoe. So let's just go ahead and create multiple materials, and I'll also go ahead and name them. So I will start up with the beanie, so I'm going to name this the beanie. Next one which I will name would be the beards. I'm also going to simply name this as the shirts. I'll name the next one as the pants and shoe, and finally we're going to just simply name skin. Okay, so now I have this done. The next thing which I'm going to do is to assign all of these things to their individual objects. And since we have these textures here, it's going to be very easy for us to just simply drag and drop them onto the palettes where they are. So your diffuse texture goes to the albedo, so we can see that here our character still looks shiny. And I'm also going to take the normal map and plug it directly where the normal map should be. All right, so I have the normal there, and probably you're going to notice that it's a bit too shiny. Now the reason why this is shiny is because we have the metalness turned on. So I'm just going to switch this. Instead of saying metalness, I'm going to change this to specular. And also for the roughness, instead of having roughness, I'll change it to gloss, because the textures which we have is gloss and specular. So I'm just going to pick up the gloss and drop the gloss where it should be, and take the specular and drop the specular where it should be. So I'll do the same thing for all the other objects. Alright, so now we have this entirely set up. The next thing which I'm going to do is just simply make a double copy of the skin. So I'll explain to you guys why. So I'm having this selected. I'm just going to click here to make a double copy, and I'm going to change this and call it the eye. Now the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to add subsurface to the skin, and I don't want it to affect the eye. So for this, I'm just going to pick this eye and drop it directly onto this object. So now I have dropped this here. I still don't want any of these things to affect the eye, so I'm just going to set all of these things to none for now. Let's just do this. And also for the specular, I'm turning this off, and I'm also turning this off, so I have exactly this eye the way I want it to be. For parts that has to do with the surface, where I had that normal earlier, we can go ahead and pick up this same normal, because you can see if I just punch this up, you'll see that this is a space for the eyes. So I can pick that normal all the way up and, you know, plug this normal back into this space for the eye. Depending on what your model looks like, you can switch this to be either object space, or, you know, you can make it tangent space. So depending on what you're going for and what your model looks like. So now I have this. Other things that you might find as a problem is within this part, you can see that we have this hair here, and how we can make this hair look cool, or how we can make it look cool. I think it's I need to turn this off. So how we can make this hair look cool is we can choose to double click this and go over to this part where we have transparency and change this to cut out. I have the eyelashes here. So what I can do is I can come over to transparency and change this to cutout. But right now I don't like how this looks. I mean, for this particular one, for this particular instance. So instead of making it cutout, I'm going to make it a detail. So it looks more like this. All right, so it looks more like that. So next thing which we need to do is to go ahead and fix this thingy that causes this to look like this, because you can notice that by default we're having this low poly sort of thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and double click just to make that selection there. Go over to this part, we have subdivision, and select the PN triangles. So with PN triangles selected, you can see smoothing is turned all the way on, and we have a very nice subdivision going on there. Next thing, I'm going to do the same for this. So just make a double click, subdivision, PN triangles, and there you go. Let's take a look at the skin. And I think the skin is fine, except people want to go ahead and make more. I think the shoes are also okay. I also think the pants are fine, but there's no harm in trial. So let's just play with this and see. All right, so it looks a bit more cool now, so we can simply do the same thing for the rest of them, and I think also for the shoe as well. So cool. So now we have this done, everything looks perfectly fine. Let's play back our animation just to confirm that everything's working. So because Marmoset actually accepts FBX, right, so it comes in with the animation baked in already, so you can see that we have our animation running properly for us. Cool things, cool things. Next thing is to drop up a ground plane. I'm just going to simply go over to object, add, and simply drop a ground plane. So let's actually find a shadow catcher that should act like the ground plane. So that should actually catch any shadow that will drop in. Next thing I'm going to simply do is to drop a simple light. So we can throw in a light from here. So let's just rotate this to this point and, you know, take it all the way up. And I'm also going to make another copy of this light. So I'm just going to drop this towards this angle. All right. So I'm just going to drop this towards this angle. Something like that. Let's just position this properly. Yeah, so something like this looks good. So one more thing which I said I was going to do for this is to talk about the skin. Now, if you remember in a previous tutorial which we did, we said once you're importing your object, you need to make sure of the measurements you're using. So this presently is in meters, and you can see how small this character looks. You can see how the scene scaling looks. So this should be our default scene scale. But what we're going to do is we're going to change the entire thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and set this to centimeter, and also set my scene to centimeter. Why I'm setting this to centimeter is so that once I want to start doing the subsurface, it would be easier for light to bounce around our object. So right now with this turned on, I want to just simply zoom in so that you guys can see a significant difference. Our subsurface is set to 1. If I push it all the way, this is what we have. And if I start pushing the subsurface inwards, you can see that we're having some light passing through our object. So I have that there. I can also go ahead and play with the translucency just a little bit, and maybe increase the depth at which light should pass through the entire object as it is. So that is how you can add subsurface to your characters, especially if they have parts that you want them to reflect that sort of light or that sort of soft surface feel. I might just punch up the fuzzy a bit. So if I zoom in, you can see a significant difference. So I'm turning this down, and you can see that. So if I start pushing this all the way up, you notice that it has some sort of fuzzy feel going around the entire object. So I will just drop this a little bit low, maybe about a point like this. Maybe something like this is good. Also, since we're still working with this, next thing which I would love to do is to drop in another light. So I'm just going to drop in another light somewhere from here. From the side like that. I also think we need a front facing light. So I might just drop in another light, but this time I'll change it to an omni light. So it's a So it's an omnidirectional light. Now we have this going on. If I go ahead and press the playback button, you can see we have our object, our character actually doing the fight. All right, and you can tell that this looks really cool, especially now that it has all of the textures and everything working. So this is basically how you can get your model directly from here. You can see how we all started. So this is how you can get your model directly from here with all the inner workings from these parts, and you know, bring it right into here. So I would like to know what you guys think about this. If you want to go ahead and finalize this object by doing a simple render, of course you can do that by, you know, attaching an initial camera first, and with that camera there you can also just make sure that you're making use of the camera you want to render with. Normally it's set to main camera, but I'm going to just simply use camera 1, and with camera 1 selected, I can go over to the render and turn on the GI and maybe increase the voxel for the resolution so you can see what I have here. At any point in time, you can also turn this down depending on how fast or how slow your computer memory is. So you can always turn this down depending on what you want. So I'm just going to turn this off so we can see that there. And also other things that you may also want to do is within this part where you have your anti-aliasing, it's always cool to keep it up this way. The resolution, you could choose to double the resolution if you want. If you want to see the wireframe of your character, you can turn this up, and you know, you can blow out the wireframe depending on what you want. All right, so these are ways and these are things that you can do to actually make your model look a bit more nicer. And since we're working with the initial camera, within the camera settings here, you can also choose to add a couple of things in the camera settings. So for this, you can also drop in some chromatic aberration, stuff like that. And yeah, I kind of like chromatic aberration, guys. So yeah, you can drop things like this and, you know, use this for whatever thing that you want. So this is how you can essentially get your models directly from Fuse or from anywhere. Take it over to Mixamo, do the rigging there, and bring it directly here and render. Simple, straightforward, and very nice stuff. If you're bothered about the background, you can always change the background whenever you or however you want it to look. So I would like to know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. If you like this video, you know what to do. If you're new here, it's going to be amazing if you can just hit the subscribe button and also turn on notification. And if you want to see more videos like this, you can tell me about these things in the comment section, and I'll be very excited to do these videos for you guys. And until I see you guys again with a tutorial, updates, news, tips or tricks, reviews, things like this, peace.